Story 2 of The Bet and Other Stories by Anton Chekhov. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Story 2, a tedious story from an old man's journal, Part 4. The summer comes and life changes. One fine morning Liza comes in to me and says in a joking tone, "Come, Your Excellency, it's all ready." They lead My Excellency into the street, put me into a cab and drive me away. For want of occupation, I read the signboards backwards as I go. The word tavern becomes Nerabat. That would do for a baron's name. Baroness Nerabat. Beyond, I drive across the field by the cemetery, which produces no impression upon me whatever, though I'll soon lie there. After a 2 hours' drive, My Excellency is led into the ground floor of the bungalow, and put into a small, lively room with a light blue paper. Insomnia at night as before, but I am no more wakeful in the morning, and I don't listen to my wife, but lie in bed. I don't sleep, but I am in a sleepy state, half forgetfulness, when you know you are not asleep, but have dreams. I get up in the afternoon and sit down at the table by force of habit, but now I don't work any more, but amuse myself with French yellowbacks sent me by Katy. Of course, it would be more patriotic to read Russian authors, but to tell the truth, I'm not particularly disposed to them. Leaving out 2 or 3 old ones, all the modern literature doesn't seem to me to be literature, but a unique home industry, which exists only to be encouraged, but the goods are bought with reluctance. The best of these homemade goods can't be called remarkable, and it's impossible to praise it sincerely without a saving "but." And the same must be said of all the literary novelties I've read during the last 10 or 15 years. Not one remarkable, and you can't dispense with "but." They have cleverness, nobility, and no talent; talent, nobility, and no cleverness; or finally, talent, cleverness, but no nobility. I would not say that French books have talent, cleverness, and nobility, nor do they satisfy me, but they are not so boring as the Russian, and it is not rare to find in them the chief constituent of creative genius, the sense of personal freedom, which is lacking to Russian authors. I do not recall one single new book in which, from the very first page, the author did not try to tie himself up in all manner of conventions and contracts with his conscience. One is frightened to speak of the naked body, another is bound hand and foot by psychological analysis, a third must have a kindly attitude to his fellow men. The fourth heaps up whole pages with descriptions of nature on purpose to avoid any suspicion of a tendency. One desires to be in his books a bourgeois at all costs, another at all costs an aristocrat. Deliberation, cautiousness, cunning, but no freedom, no courage to write as one likes, and therefore no creative genius. All this refers to belles lettres, so called. As for serious articles in Russian, on sociology, for instance, or art and so forth, I don't read them, simply out of timidity. For some reason, in my childhood and youth, I had a fear of porters and theatre attendants, and this fear has remained with me up till now. Even now I am afraid of them. It is said that only that which one cannot understand seems terrible, and indeed it is very difficult to understand why hall porters and theatre attendants are so pompous and haughty and importantly polite. When I read serious articles, I have exactly the same indefinable fear. Their portentous gravity, their playfulness, like an archbishop's, their over-familiar attitude to foreign authors, their capacity for talking dignified nonsense, filling a vacuum with emptiness, it is all inconceivable to me and terrifying, and quite unlike the modesty and the calm and gentlemanly tone to which I am accustomed when reading our writers on medicine and the natural sciences. Not only articles, I have difficulty also in reading translations, even when they are edited by serious Russians. The presumptuous benevolence of the prefaces, the abundance of notes by the translator, which prevents one from concentrating, the parenthetical queries and sicks, which are so liberally scattered over the book or the article by the translator, seem to me an assault on the author's person, as well as on my independence as a reader. Once I was invited as an expert to the High Court. In the interval, one of my fellow experts called my attention to the rude behaviour of the public prosecutor to the prisoners, among whom were 2 women intellectuals. I don't think I exaggerated at all when I replied to my colleague that he was not behaving more rudely than authors of serious articles behave to one another. Indeed, their behaviour is so rude that one speaks of them with bitterness. They behave to each other, or to the writers whom they criticize, either with too much deference, careless of their own dignity, or, on the other hand, they treat them much worse than I have treated Necker, my future son-in-law, in these notes and thoughts of mine. Accusations of irresponsibility, of impure intentions, of any kind of crime even, are the usual adornment of serious articles. And this, as our young medicos love to say in their little articles, quite ultima ratio. Such an attitude must necessarily be reflected in the character of the young generation of writers, and therefore I'm not at all surprised that in the new books which have been added to our belles lettres in the last 10 or 15 years, the heroes drink a great deal of vodka and the heroines are not sufficiently chaste. I read French books and look out of the window, which is open. I see the pointed palings of my little garden, 2 or 3 skinny trees, and there, beyond the garden, the road, fields, then a wide strip of young pine forest. I often delight in watching a little boy and girl, both white-haired and ragged, climb on the garden fence and laugh at my baldness. In their shining little eyes I read, "Come out, thou bald head." These are almost the only people who don't care a bit about my reputation or my title. I don't have visitors every day now. I'll mention only the visits of Nicholas and Piotr Ignatievich. Nicholas comes to me usually on holidays, pretending to come on business, but really to see me. He is very hilarious, a thing which never happens to him in the winter. "Well, what have you got to say?" I ask him, coming out into the passage. "Your Excellency," he says, pressing my hand to his heart and looking at me with a lover's rapture, "Your Excellency, so help me God, God strike me where I stand, gaudiamus igitur juvenestus." And he kisses me eagerly on the shoulders, on my sleeves and buttons. "Is everything all right over there?" I ask. "Your Excellency, I swear to God." He never stops swearing, quite unnecessarily, and I soon get bored, and send him to the kitchen, where they give him dinner. Piotr Ignatievich also comes on holidays, specially to visit me and communicate his thoughts to me. He usually sits by the table in my room, modest, clean, judicious, without daring to cross his legs or lean his elbows on the table, all the while telling me in a quiet, even voice what he considers very piquant items of news gathered from journals and pamphlets. These items are all alike, and can be reduced to the following type. A Frenchman made a discovery. Another, a German, exposed him by showing that this discovery had been made as long ago as 1870 by some American. Then a third, also a German, outwitted them both by showing that both of them had been confused by taking spherules of air under a microscope for dark pigment. Even when he wants to make me laugh, Piotr Ignatievich tells his story at great length, very much as though he were defending a thesis, enumerating his literary sources in detail, with every effort to avoid mistakes in the dates, the particular number of the journal, and the names. Moreover, he does not say Petit simply, but inevitably Jean-Jacques Petit. If he happens to stay to dinner, he will tell the same sort of piquant stories, and drive all the company to despondency. If Necker and Liza begin to speak of fugues and counterfugues in his presence, he modestly lowers his eyes and his face falls. He is ashamed that such trivialities should be spoken of in the presence of such serious men as him and me. In my present state of mind, 5 minutes are enough for him to bore me as though I had seen and listened to him for a whole eternity. I hate the poor man. I wither away beneath his quiet, even voice and his bookish language. His stories make me stupid. He cherishes the kindliest feelings toward me, and talks to me only to give me pleasure. I reward him by staring at his face as if I wanted to hypnotize him, and thinking, "Go away, go, go." But he is proof against my mental suggestion, and sits. While he sits with me, I cannot rid myself of the idea, when I die, it's quite possible that he will be appointed in my place. Then my poor audience appears to me as an oasis where the stream has dried up, and I am unkind to Piotr Ignatievich, and silent and morose as if he were guilty of such thoughts and not I myself. When he begins, as usual, to glorify the German scholars, I no longer jest good-naturedly, but murmur sternly, "They're fools, your Germans." It's like the late Professor Nikita Krylov when he was bathing with Pirogov at Revel. He got angry with the water, which was very cold, and swore about "those scoundrelly Germans." I behave badly to Piotr Ignatievich, and it's only when he is going away, and I see through the window his grey hat disappearing behind the garden fence, that I want to call him back and say, "Forgive me, my dear fellow." The dinner goes yet more wearily than in winter. The same Necker, whom I now hate and despise, dines with me every day. Before, I used to suffer his presence in silence, but now I say biting things to him, which makes my wife and Liza blush. Carried away by an evil feeling, I often say things that are merely foolish, and don't know why I say them. Thus it happened once that after looking at Necker contemptuously for a long while, I suddenly fired off, for no reason at all, "Eagles than barnyard fowls may lower bend, but fowl shall never to the heavens ascend." More's the pity that the fowl Necker shows himself more clever than the eagle professor. Knowing my wife and daughter are on his side, he maintains these tactics. He replies to my shafts with a condescending silence. "The old man, off his head, what's the good of talking to him?" Or makes good-humoured fun of me. It is amazing to what depths of pettiness a man may descend. During the whole dinner I can dream how Necker will be shown to be an adventurer, how Liza and my wife will realize their mistake, and I will tease them. Ridiculous dreams like these at a time when I have one foot in the grave. Now there occur misunderstandings, of a kind which I formerly knew only by hearsay. Though it is painful, I will describe one which occurred after dinner the other day. I sit in my room smoking a little pipe. Enters my wife, as usual, sits down and begins to talk. What a good idea it would be to go to Kharkov now, while the weather is warm and there is the time, and inquire what kind of man our Necker is. "Very well, I'll go," I agree. My wife gets up, pleased with me, and walks to the door, but immediately returns. "By the by, I've one more favour to ask. I know you'll be angry, but it's my duty to warn you. Forgive me, Nikolai, but all our neighbours have begun to talk about the way you go to Katie's continually. I don't deny that she's clever and educated. It's pleasant to spend the time with her. But at your age and in your position it's rather strange to find pleasure in her society. Besides, she has reputation enough to—" All my blood rushes instantly from my brain. My eyes flash fire. I catch hold of my hair and stamp and cry, in a voice that is not mine, "Leave me alone! Leave me! Leave me!" My face is probably terrible, and my voice strange, for my wife suddenly gets pale, and calls aloud, with a despairing voice, also not her own. At our cries rush in Liza and Necker, and then Yegor. My feet grow numb, as though they did not exist. I feel that I am falling into somebody's arms. Then I hear crying for a little while, and sink into a faint which lasts for 2 or 3 hours. Now for Katy. She comes to see me before evening every day, which of course must be noticed by my neighbours and my friends. After a minute she takes me with her for a drive. She has her own horse and a new buggy she bought this summer. Generally she lives like a princess. She has taken an expensive detached bungalow with a big garden, and put into it all her town furniture. She has 2 maids and a coachman. I often ask her, "Katy, what will you live on when you've spent all your father's money?" "We'll see then," she answers. "But this money deserves to be treated more seriously, my dear. It was earned by a good man and honest labour." "You've told me that before." "I know." First we drive by the field, then by a young pine forest, which you can see from my window. Nature seems to me as beautiful as she used, although the devil whispers to me that all these pines and firs, the birds and white clouds in the sky, will not notice my absence in 3 or 4 months when I am dead. Katy likes to take the reins, and it is good that the weather is fine and I am sitting by her side. She is in a happy mood, and does not say bitter things. "You're a very good man, Nicolai," she says. "You are a rare bird. There's no actor who could play your part. Mine or Mikhail's, for instance, even a bad actor could manage. But yours, there's nobody. I envy you terribly. What am I? What?" She thinks for a moment and asks, "I'm a negative phenomenon, aren't I?" "Yes," I answer. What's to be done then?" What answer can I give? It's easy to say, work, or give your property to the poor, or know yourself, and because it's so easy to say this, I don't know what to answer. My therapeutist colleagues, when teaching methods of cure, advise one to individualize each particular case. This advice must be followed in order to convince oneself that the remedies recommended in the textbooks as the best and most thoroughly suitable as a general rule are quite unsuitable in particular cases. It applies to moral affections as well. But I must answer something, so I say, "You've too much time on your hands, my dear. You must take up something. In fact, why shouldn't you go on the stage again, if you have a vocation?" "I can't." "You have the manner and tone of a victim. I don't like it, my dear. You have yourself to blame. Remember, you began by getting angry with people and things in general. But you never did anything to improve either of them. You didn't put up a struggle against the evil. You got tired. You're not a victim of the struggle, but of your own weakness. Certainly you were young then and inexperienced, but now everything can be different. Come on, be an actress. You will work. You will serve in the Temple of Art." "Oh, don't be so clever, Nicolai," she interrupts. "Let's agree once for all. Let's speak about actors, actresses, writers, but let us leave art out of it. You're a rare and excellent man, but you don't understand enough about art to consider it truly sacred. You have no flair, no ear for art. You've been busy all your life, and you never had time to acquire the flair. Really, I don't love these conversations about art," she continues nervously. "I don't love them. They've vulgarized it enough already, thank you." "Who's vulgarized it?" "They vulgarized it by their drunkenness, newspapers by their over-familiarity, clever people by philosophy." "What's philosophy got to do with it?" "A great deal. If a man philosophizes, it means he doesn't understand." So that it should not come to bitter words, I hasten to change the subject, and then keep silence for a long while. It's not till we come out of the forest and drive towards Katy's bungalow I return to the subject and ask, "Still, you haven't answered me why you don't want to go on the stage." "Really, it's cruel!" she cries out, and suddenly blushes all over. "You want me to tell you the truth outright? Very well, if you will have it, I've no talent. No talent and much ambition. There you are." After this confession she turns her face away from me, and, to hide the trembling of her hands, tugs at the reins. As we approach her bungalow, from a distance we see Mikhail already, walking about by the gate, impatiently awaiting us. "This Fiodorovich again," Katy says with annoyance. "Please take him away from me. I'm sick of him. He's flat. Let him go to the deuce." Mikhail Fiodorovich ought to have gone abroad long ago, but he has postponed his departure every week. There have been some changes in him lately. He's suddenly got thin, begun to be affected by drink, a thing that never happened to him before, and his black eyebrows have begun to get grey. When our buggy stops at the gate, he cannot hide his joy and impatience. Anxiously he helps Katy and me from the buggy, hastily asks us questions, laughs, slowly rubs his hands, and that gentle, prayerful, pure something that I used to notice only in his eyes is now poured all over his face. He is happy, and at the same time ashamed of his happiness, ashamed of his habit of coming to Katy's every evening, and he finds it necessary to give a reason for his coming, some obvious absurdity like, "I was passing on business, and I thought I'd just drop in for a second." All three of us go indoors. First we drink tea, then our old friends, the 2 packs of cards, appear on the table, with a big piece of cheese, some fruit, and a bottle of Crimean champagne. The subjects of conversation are not new, but all exactly the same as they were in the winter. The university, the students, literature, the theatre, all of them come in for it. The air thickens with slanders and grows more close. It is poisoned by the breath, not of 2 toads, as in winter, but now by all 3. Besides the velvety baritone laughter and the accordion-like giggle, the maid who waits upon us hears also the unpleasant, jarring laugh of a musical comedy general. End of Story 2, Part 4.